Says it'll begin shortly.
Mine works.
Because that's not real. The party told you not to, don't lie. It says is don't take the party.
Not changed everything. Oh my gosh.
Between a jean
$3.40.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Welcome, everybody. We're still getting people in off the wait list here, so we will begin very shortly, and stay tuned. Well, welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our State of the Vape webinar series, the first debut of our new webinar series coming from Smokefree, Tennessee. My name is Jamie Kent. I have the honor of being the chair of this coalition, and our coalition is the state's official nicotine prevention and control coalition statewide. We have an amazing group of partners, 150 members deep, and we are growing every day, every month. We are really excited to launch this webinar series as a part of that growth and bring really important topics that bring people together that are timely, and we think that this one is truly maybe the most timely and has the greatest gravity of anything in our state right now in this field. And I think the interest has been overwhelming and for this first webinar series, and it's a testament to both the importance of this issue right now and the incredible quality of speakers we have for you today. Just as a quick reminder, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be fantastic. We are recording this and we'll be able to distribute it to the folks that can't make it today but RSVP'd. And the format of this is we're going to start kind of with the state of the vape, laying out where things are with the speaker. Then we're going to do a spotlight on some great work happening in our state right now. And then we're going to finish with a panel of 3 experts talking about this. And of course, we will leave time for Q&A with everybody as well. So I'm going to pass the mic here to Jacob Black from the Tennessee Department of Health. I like to call him the Duke of Data, or the Earl of Epidemiology. He really is the go-to source of data that is coming out as it comes out, and he just is an incredible resource to our state and to public health folks across the state. And I think you're going to really enjoy what he has to say here. Jacob, I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. So let's get to, so we've got a panel of speakers. My name is Jacob Black. I'm the epidemiologist, like Jamie mentioned, which is basically just short for the data nerd for the state. If you want to go to the next slide, we'll go ahead and jump right into it. So this chart looks back over the past about 12 years, looking at experimentation with cigarette smoking and e-cigarette and vape use among high schoolers in Tennessee. And you can see over the past 12 years, starting in 2009, we've really made a ton of progress with youth experimentation with smoking, coming from a high of about 51% in 2009 down to under 20% in 2021. This is absolutely something that we want to applaud and highlight. It's fantastic work thanks to the policies and programs that we put in place over the past decade. However, in the mid 2010s, with the advent of e-cigarettes and vaping, that really poses a threat to kind of erase all of that progress that we've made for high schoolers with regard to tobacco product use. So really we added questions to our youth health survey in 2015 to start monitoring e-cigarette use and vaping among high schoolers. And really what we've seen is the rates have remained largely unchanged since we started monitoring that data. So in 2015 through 2021, it's been really hovering around 40% of high schoolers reporting having tried these products. We did have a small kind of bump in 2019, but we'll call that an aberration or a fluke. What's really concerning, if you want to go to the next slide, is that out of that 40%, half, about 20%, report current use, right? So this is using reporting using these products within the past 30 days. This data is as of 2021. And what we've also seen is that the burden of e-cigarette use among youth is more than twice as high as it is for adults in Tennessee. So you can see that 20% of high schoolers in Tennessee report current use compared to 9% of adults. Next slide. So the points here, and I think everyone is pretty well aware of this, is that e-cigarette use is truly an epidemic among youth. Nearly half of the students who reported having tried or experimented with e-cigarettes were current users, and that's not by accident. 90% of current e-cigarette users for high schoolers report using flavored products, right? So if we go to the next slide, we can kind of see how this came to be. So you can see on the far left-hand side, we've really had 5 kind of generations of tobacco or e-cigarette products, rather vape products. On the far left-hand side, you can see the first generation were really kind of geared to look like cigarettes. They're cigarette lookalikes, geared more toward current smokers, transitioning over to these products. As the second and third generations came on, they became a little more tech heavy. You could monitor or adjust the amount of nicotine that you received, how big your dose was, that sort of thing. But it wasn't until the fourth and now fifth generations where the youth vaping epidemic really took hold. So right there in the fourth generation on the right-hand side is Juul. I'm sure everyone is very familiar. And these really hit the market and became kind of a cornerstone, I guess, of the epidemic. Juuls are really no longer the kind of most popular ones among youth. We've now transitioned over to this fifth generation of entirely disposable products, which are very brightly colored, and they lean heavily into lots of fruity and candy flavored, sweet flavored flavorings, rather. They hold quite a lot in them, so you can get up to 5,000 puffs out of a product, and then whenever you're done, you just toss it. You don't have to buy the little refillable cartridges. What's more concerning is that on the far right-hand side, there's been an influx of products that are meant to be concealed, right? So what looks and is actually a functional highlighter on the far right-hand side, you can take off the cap and highlight your work, but on the back end of it near the label, you can also take a puff out of your vape products, so you can get a hit from that. And this is not by accident as well, right? It's meant to be concealed. If you go to the next slide, we've got lots of other examples of how this has kind of come to be. So you've got products that look like pens and are functional pens. You've got them that can be kind of hidden on your hoodie sleeve, and they're kind of hidden in plain sight. You've got ones that look like or Apple Watch lookalikes and function as watches as well. And then really, the tobacco industry has been very effective at pushing out flavored products to youth, right? So Sour Patch Kids and Runts in the top right, lots of fruit flavors and candy flavors all throughout the market at this point. Next slide. So how do we address this, right? It has to be a multi-pronged approach. It has to come from not just individual organizations. It can't just be working with youth one-on-one. It has to be all three. We've got to implement policies at the state level and at the local level that dissuade youth from dissuade youth use and punish retailers who break the law. So Tennessee does not have any of the policies that are listed. We don't tax e-cigarettes. We don't have a license requirement to sell tobacco products, and we don't have any sort of effective flavor ban in place. These are policies that other states have implemented and have been tested and reviewed and researched and have been shown to be effective. And these are kind of common policies that we could implement. In addition to that, we have interventions that we have been working on to support youth with quitting. So training health educators across the state as cessation facilitators, working with school districts to integrate their cessation support into their policies. So not immediately punishing students, but instead supporting them with this process. And then encouraging students to track tobacco violations for their students over time to see how they need to modify their approach. And then finally, we have programs to educate youth, parents, teachers, administrators, and really anyone who comes in contact and influences youth. Things like TN Strong, which I won't talk a whole lot about because Robin and Samantha are going to touch on that next. Nicotine-free teams, and engaging parent-teacher associations, school boards, partner organizations, really anyone that, like I said, works with this group to try and expand the reach and best address this issue. So with that, I'll turn it over to Robin and Samantha on the next slide to cover some of the programs that they've been working on. Thanks.
Thanks, Jacob. Really appreciate that. That's some eye-opening data, and I know that I think there's just so many products that are constantly changing that we're all trying to keep up with, that it's really great to see those right in front of us, and be able to identify these things that, like you said, are hidden in plain sight. So passing the mic onto our spotlight session, we're really excited to feature Robin Hatler of the Tennessee Department of Health and Samantha Kendall, Tennessee Strong ambassador from this amazing youth ambassador program that they are working on, and are going to tell us all about some amazing work happening. We are in a youth epidemic, but we are fighting back, and TN Strong ambassadors are at the forefront of it. So let's pass the mic to Robin first, and then to Sammy from there.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited to be here to share about our TN Strong Ambassador Program. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. So TN Strong stands for Tennessee Stop Tobacco and Revolutionize Our New Generation. It's a youth-led statewide movement committed to raising awareness of the dangers of tobacco and fighting against the tobacco industry's influence on Tennessee youth. You can go to the next slide. So as far as how it works, we do ambassador trainings with our youth ambassadors that we currently have about 25. They are age 13 through 19. They apply to be ambassadors. They're all across the state of Tennessee. There's a map coming up that will show where they're located throughout Tennessee. But we do trainings with them, trying to make them really interactive, give them the advocacy skills that they need to be able to go out into their communities and do nicotine prevention works. They do campaign events. They attend key decision maker meetings, such as health council meetings, city council meetings, school board meetings. And then we have our statewide youth training, which is our TN Strong Youth Summit. We can go to the next slide. So here's our map that's got the different ambassadors and where they're located throughout the state of Tennessee. So as I said, we have about 25 ambassadors and are located throughout areas across the whole state of Tennessee. We actually just had our in-person training with those ambassadors, had about 20 or so there. Really great to get them connected, to let them know that they are not doing this work on their own. As Jamie said, is an epidemic, but we are working together, and there are youth out there that are passionate about making a difference. So about 1,160 volunteer hours for the 2022 year. That is probably an underestimation because these ambassadors go out and do a lot of work. And sometimes it's hard for us to keep track of everything that they've done. It's hard for them to keep track. So that's a very low estimate as far as the work that they do out in their community. For our youth-wide summit in 2023, we had about 426 registrants. You can go to the next slide. So here's a map that shows where all the different youth attendees were from out across the state of Tennessee. That was our youth summit. That was June 4th through 6th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. The summit is open to any youth age 13 through 19. It is free for them to attend. We had, as I said, 426 total registrants. That was 258 youth between the ages of 13 and 19 from 37 counties across Tennessee, which you can see is pictured. And they had an opportunity to hear from leading tobacco prevention experts as well as network with like-minded peers from across the state. So at this summit, we really try to bring the information into a arena that is relevant to them. So it is nicotine prevention, but we do understand that nicotine infiltrates everything when it comes to youth having a healthy lifestyle. So we make sure we incorporate things like mental health, interactive physical activity, and those components as well, so that the youth understand how nicotine will impact negatively anything that they love to do. You can go to the next slide. So we really like to do some unique opportunities with our ambassadors. We're trying to give them the skills that they need to, succeed in their advocacy work, but we also want to make sure we open some doorways and let them do some fun, interactive things. So one of the highlights that we did, and I know Sammy's going to go into much more detail about this, so I'm just going to give a brief overview for you. But we did a PSA called Smoking on Screen, SOS, a media project. The ambassadors participated in creating a voiceover for a PSA that was created by Smokefree Tennessee Coalition. And the recording was done at a real live studio in Nashville, had all the records, all the fancy buttons, all the gadgets, all the things. So I'm not going to, as I said, I'm going to let Sammy share the information about that, but it's just one of the examples of the ways that we are trying to open up some doorways and do some fun things with our youth to give them their voice already has power, but we just want to put some little motion behind that. Go on the next slide. So coming soon, we are doing a band together against vaping. So the little promo for that is what do a jock, a marching band drummer, a theater kid, and a bookworm all have in common? They're all targets of big tobacco and victims of vaping. But what else do they have in common? A love of music. Banding Together Against Vaping is a new program the Tennessee Health Department aiming to solve youth vaping epidemic through music, competition, and advocacy. So we're pairing together, which you can see on the other side of the screen. We've got our nicotine-free teams, which is a program that we already have in place and are currently growing as well, in which students from schools, middle or high schools, are able to sign a pledge saying that they're going to be nicotine free. And as a result, they get incentives and a banner that declares that they're nicotine free. So the Band Together Against Vaping is sort of building off our SOS media campaign, kind of tying into some competitive options for schools and really bringing this home as a statewide, big, exciting thing that incorporates all the things that youth love, and they get to make their voice be heard across the state by incorporating all those elements as far as the competition, the music, the fun of it all. So we're really excited about that, hoping to really dig a little deeper into that in the upcoming months and upcoming years. Have a great plan picked out to make it really fun and engaging for all the youth across the state of Tennessee. I think we can go to the next. And this is just ways that you can get involved. You can visit our website, which there's a QR code on the slide that will link you directly there. You can reach out to your local TN Strong ambassadors. I promise after Sammy talks, you're going to want to connect with these youth because they are so engaged in doing so many wonderful things. You can also connect with your local county's public health educator. They involved in all this work. We provide them with the resources to support them. And you can join us at the TN Strong Summit coming in July 2024. I think you can go to the next. I think that's all. And Sammy. Passing it on to our youth ambassador.
Thank you, Robin. I really appreciate you going over all the logistics of TN Strong, and I'm here to talk about my personal experience with TN Strong. So
I was in gym playing
again, I'm a Tan Strong ambassador. This is actually my third year being an ambassador, and I'm from Greene County, Tennessee, and that's kind of like in the Northeast region. So we're kind of up there and almost to North Carolina. So why I got involved. So I actually got involved at first because my father is a firefighter with our local fire department, and he had actually seen quite a few fires that had been started by lit cigarettes that had just been tossed out the window. So, and he had really seen how tobacco has ravaged, like absolutely ravaged houses, forests, people's bodies. He goes to medical calls and he will have a 34-year-old patient who has COPD. So that's why I got involved. In addition to that, my grandfather actually during Summit in 2022, my grandfather actually passed away from a lifetime of smoking and nicotine product use. So that's why I got involved. That's why I'm so passionate about it. Some projects that I've worked on with Tan Strong was the SOS projects, the smoking on screen. We actually, Jamie had invited us, and I knew when I heard that, I was like, I want to go do that. That sounds awesome. So we had coordinated with Jamie, and two other ambassadors came with us, Annabelle and Katie. And we went into the recording studio, and it was so surreal just to be surrounded by records of people who have gone platinum or double platinum or music that I've heard since I was literally like 4 years old. And just to see and be in that space that other people have been in who have done like absolutely incredible music is was outstanding. It was mind blowing. And then not only to do that, but to do that for some good. Like, to really push this idea that, hey, smoking's not good. We have to fix this. Youth are getting extreme health consequences, and the law is not currently protecting them. So that's one of the projects that I helped work on, and it was so much fun. I'm thinking that maybe that PSA is gonna come out real soon. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers. So, so that was one of the projects that I worked on. Another one that was more recent, was actually a blood drive that I helped host. I got a blood donation van to come in. I had a table set up with all of the pamphlets and some gross factor things. There was like a jar of a year's worth of tar that will go into somebody's lungs if they smoke. And it was an incredible experience. We had 15 people show up to donate blood. So it was an absolutely incredible experience. And some skills that I've learned from Tan Strong are presentation skills. So I get to come on to webinars like this. I get to go into recording studios and, be able to just talk to people, and also developing professional relationships. That's probably been one of the biggest outcomes that I've taken away from this, is how to coordinate with people, and also just how to be able to have that professional relationship and to email someone and be like, hey, this is an idea I have. Could you please, help me out with this? Or do you want to get involved? So yeah, also time management and planning. I'm not very good at that. I'm not going to pretend to be very good at that, but Tan Strong helps me a lot because it's fun, and planning and all of that. Like, we work on work plans, and that has helped me with school and like just practical stuff. So it's not just tobacco advocacy. It's kind of learning how to be an adult. And it's so cool. And I can't stress this enough, how much I love Tan Strong and the work that I've done with Tan Strong, the projects I've been able to accomplish, the impacts that I've been able to make on lives has been just so touching. I'll have people come up to me, and after I share a story on stage about my personal experience with tobacco, and how it affected my grandfather, I had people come up to me and say that was really touching. And I was over here thinking like this is too much to be shared with strangers. But as I saw, hey, this is actually helping. This is touching people. I saw, you know what? This is important, and I'm gonna keep doing this. So yeah, that's why I love Tan Strong. Summit, please come. It will be amazing. Please have your youth coalition if you have one. If you have a school that you work with and you think, hey, I have a couple kids who would really benefit from this, please send them. We love participants, and we love talking about Tan Strong and just tobacco advocacy and public speaking and all of the things. So please send them our way. And yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So yeah.
Awesome. Great work, Sammy. Thank you so much, Robin, for outlining this amazing program. We will drop an email at the end of this presentation for ways to get in touch with Tan Strong, so that in case you want to recruit their current ambassadors to come partake in an activity or help grow the program in your own community. I think that there are huge opportunities to grow that. And I know a lot of folks on this panel, this webinar right now would love to join forces with Tan Strong and could benefit from it. Sammy, one person, Carmen, asked, has this experience helped you navigate any issues that you've seen affecting your peers at school or any personal friends?
So yes, so Tan Strong has actually helped me be able to navigate personal relationships a lot better. It's also helped me to be able to stand up to people and say, hey, this isn't good. This is not good behavior. Let's change this. But it doesn't do it in a way that's like, don't do that. That's bad. It's more in a supportive, hey, I'm here for you. Let's fix this. But also, it also goes into personal stuff other than just, hey, tobacco, or drugs or alcohol or anything like that. It's also definitely more like personal relationships too. I've been able to honestly protect my peace a lot better, knowing that, I have things outside of just this like volleyball. I have a bubble outside of volleyball. Just being able to see, hey, I love Tan Strong, and it's amazing. Tan Strong really has helped me though a lot, especially with personal relationships, and not only personal relationships but professional relationships as well.
Amazing. Thank you for your incredible advocacy, Sammy. Keep up the amazing work. I see there you're getting showered with praise in the chat too, but don't stop with that, folks. You keep it coming. All right, so that sort of wraps the first half of our webinar and shifts into the second, which is more of a panel focused and is sort of addressing both the opportunities that are ahead and the barriers that are ahead based on some amazing other work that's going on right now. We have three amazing panelists that I'm so honored to have joining us today. We had a last minute switch up this morning due to some unforeseen circumstances with Dr. Jamie Lomax, but we have an amazing guest jumping in for her instead, which is Mrs. Crystal Johnson Terrell, who is the director of Tennessee Safe Schools, which deals primarily with substance abuse and supports in prevention for Metro Nashville Public Schools. So she's jumping in, and that's it. And we also have with us Lori Lamberth, who is the Senior Assistant Attorney General for the state of Tennessee and has done some incredible work settling with Juul recently, and will share some of that with us. And then we have Stephanie Strutner, who is the CEO of the Prevention Alliance of Tennessee, which is an amazing network of prevention coalitions across the state doing incredible work. Thank you for the three of you for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. I'm going to sort of steer the ships slowly, but I really want this to be you sharing some insight with us here. So I'm going to kick it off with each of you telling us a bit about you or your organization's work in the fight against youth vaping here in Tennessee, and any successes this past year that you're particularly proud of. I'm going to kick it off with Lori Lamberth here, and from there we'll go to Stephanie, and from there to Crystal.
Hey everyone, as Jamie said, I'm Lori Lambert. I'm a senior assistant attorney general with the state of Tennessee. And so I work in the tobacco enforcement division. And so historically, my division has been focused primarily on traditional cigarettes. But as e-cigarettes have become a bigger and bigger issue, that's taken up more and more of our focus. And as Jamie said, the biggest victory we've had was our recent settlement with Juul Labs. That was many years of work with many states. It was a multi-state settlement agreement. So 34 states worked together to investigate Juul. And we all sort of came to the table with Juul and we're like, look, what you're doing is not cool. We need to get this figured out, to avoid being sued by all 34 of us. Let's come to an agreement. And so after many years of negotiations, we were able to come to a settlement agreement that did bring money into the state of Tennessee. We're going to receive between $13 and $14 million over the next 6 to 10 years. But most importantly, we got them to agree to a lot of injunctive relief, which just means they agreed to either prevent doing things or to do certain things for us. And so the biggest thing was a bunch of youth marketing restrictions. A little bit of a history lesson. Back in 1998, all of the tobacco companies, all the big ones, agreed to the master settlement agreement that had a lot of marketing restrictions. And so we got Juul Labs to agree to a lot of those, a lot of those same things. So things like they can't use cartoons in their advertisement. They can't do any brand name merchandise. So things like a Juul branded sweatshirt or something like that. They've agreed to not do that. They've agreed to not have any models in their commercials that are under the age of 35. Because as everybody knows from the Vaporize campaign, I mean, they had all those young people who, were probably at that time, the age for smoking was 18. It's now 21. But I'm sure everybody featured in their ads was over the age of 18, but just barely so. They looked like they could have been high schoolers. They also agreed to not do product placement, so they can't pay, any popular shows with kids. They can't pay like Euphoria to have them using Juul products in their shows. And they've agreed to a retail compliance program for the next at least 2 years. A bit of a logistical thing. We're in the process of trying to get them to extend that because they did a longer program with, I believe, the state of New York. And so we're working with them to get them to agree to do it longer in Tennessee and the other 34 states in this multi-state agreement. And so if we get that happen, they'll agree to do it for the next 4 years, or as long as they make payments. So it could be up to 10 years. They'll do a retail compliance program where Juul takes the onus upon themselves to go into Tennessee retailers that are selling Juul products and make sure that they're not selling to people who are underaged. And there's a complicated system of, at the first violation, you get a warning letter. At the next, you get a fine. But after 4 violations, that retailer would be no longer allowed to sell Juul products. So that has been our big success recently. And, we're just continuing to investigate in this space. It's an ever growing, ever changing market. And so we're just kind of trying to stay on top of it and work with, local enforcement and also working with some federal partners as well.
Thank you so much, Lori. And thanks for that amazing work. It sets an amazing precedent and huge precedent moving forward, and hopefully we'll help get those other folks like Elf Bar in line too down the line. All right, let's kick it to Stephanie. Same question.
Hey, thanks, Jamie. Hello, everybody. Stephanie Strutner, the CEO of the Prevention Alliance of Tennessee. And over the past couple of years, we've seen the landscape of vaping change, as has been mentioned. But when we think about the policy side of things, during COVID, we saw a real setback with regard to the policy landscape in our state, with vape products being preempted from the state level. And so we had some bills at the time that we were pushing to create safe and healthy spaces for people and families and musicians specifically to be able to work in a smoke-free environment that had to be put on hold because of the laws that preempted vaping products. And so for those of you out there who are wondering, what does preemption mean? Essentially, we have laws at the state level that certain laws cannot be superseded by local laws. And that's what we mean with preemption. So when the state passed a law, a local municipality lost the ability to regulate anything within that, anything defined by that law. And so we've collaborated with Musicians for a Smoke-Free Smokefree Tennessee, as well as a number of partner agencies, the American Cancer Society, the American Heart Association, American Lung Association, coalitions across the state. I could go on and on. But I think what our organization is most proud about over the past 2 years are the number of people who have engaged in grassroots advocacy to really help our elected officials understand how vaping has impacted youth in their communities and how vaping continues to affect adults, the like, and how I've seen people work together to be able to change these laws. And our youth played a really pivotal role in helping to advocate on the Hill last year at the Provincial Alliance of Tennessee's Day on the Hill, and really hit the ground, hit the pavement by going out and meeting with their legislators to talk about the importance of laws that support healthy and vape-free, smoke-free environments for youth. And so last year, under Jamie's leadership, our advocates were able to successfully educate the elected officials in both Tennessee's House and Senate, and we're part of helping to make sure that all musicians in Tennessee have the opportunity to play in a smoke-free environment that is healthy for them, but also better for their equipment and better for the consumers of music in our state. And in addition to that, our stakeholders have been active in reversing a number of pieces of preemption when it comes to combustible and traditional tobacco products, allowing for smoke-free parks in our communities where children are playing and engaging in athletic events. And our members across the state have really, I know many of you here have been advocates through these initiatives. And so we're just really proud to be able to be the conduit to get good information to people in the state of Tennessee so that you can inform people who are making decisions on our behalf. And I think that is a place where we all have a real stronghold and have a responsibility to make sure that we're getting good science-based information to people who are making decisions on our behalf.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephanie. And thank you for your amazing advocacy over the last couple of years. They truly, the organization truly rolls up the sleeves and gets in the weeds and does the hard work to get things done. And so if you have a local prevention coalition, I highly recommend being a part of that and supporting them in their great work. All right, Mrs. Terrell, pass it to you.
Thank you, Jamie. As Jamie shared with you earlier, I am Crystal Johnson Terrell. I currently serve as the Director of Student Discipline here with Metro Schools, but also the Director of Tennessee Safe Schools. The Tennessee Safe Schools team specifically deals with primarily with substance abuse supports and preventions for MNPS. A few work that our organization does as it relates to the fight against youth vaping. One of the things that we are currently doing are holding student voice sessions. Those sessions are where students are able to provide us with feedback related to vaping. It also helps us, these student voice sessions also help us in framing our campaigns and really customizing our supports here at the district. Another way that we are working in this fight against youth vaping is linking schools with organizations such as Caring Institute and Nashville Thrives, where those schools, those particular organizations can provide trainings on programs, of course, related to substance use and abuse, nicotine. They typically can provide whole school presentations to schools. They can also train the trainer, so they typically can train someone in a curriculum such as Catch My Breath, and train those social workers or school counselors in that particular program, and in that curriculum, and the social workers or school counselors can then present those or present that curriculum to students. They also, those two organizations also provide group sessions as well to some of our students in the schools. Another piece that we are also doing is that our school counselors are able to provide just lessons around vaping in general. And the other big program that we have is the First Time Drug Offender Program. And what this program does is, of course, this program is offered to our students who are typically found to be to possibly have possession of drugs. And if they've not, and it's in lieu of an expulsion. So they can participate in this program in lieu of an expulsion. Typically, the student and the parent is present on a Saturday. And the students specifically, they have this is our opportunity for us to learn more about why they use. The other piece to that is the students have the opportunity to learn about how the drugs are have an impact on the brain, how it impacts the family, and of course, how it has impact the school and their education. And so again, these are just some of the things that we are doing as an organization in the fight against youth vaping. A big success is just continuing to work through that increased awareness and knowing at a school level that increased awareness of vaping and what resources are available. And we are so excited about some of our schools, and the linkages are the links that they have connected with being able to have those whole school presentations and things like that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your great work and helping educate us on some great things happening at Metro Nashville Public Schools. All right, so I'm going to shift gear. I think a lot of what we focused on so far is some of the great work that's been happening and that we are doing as a state against this. But if we're being honest, as Jacob said, we're in the middle of a youth vaping epidemic, and there are some big challenges ahead. And I think we intentionally put 3 different panelists that have great work in different fields on here. And I'd love to hear, framed through the lens of your own work, whether it be law and policy, whether it be community, or whether it be schools, what do you think right now poses the greatest threat or greatest challenge to our fight against this youth epidemic, and what's preventing us from lowering these rates right now? So I'll kick it back to Lori to start that.
Hey, so first I'll say the opinions I express here are mine and mine alone, and do not reflect the opinion of the Attorney General or anybody or the organization as a whole. But I think that the biggest challenge is how quickly the new products emerge. It's as soon as we start regulating one thing. I know there was a big thing, the FDA, Center for Tobacco Products, for a while, it's like, okay, well, they worked to get e-cigarettes under their control and under their purview, but they didn't get synthetic nicotine products under there. So at first, so they could only regulate the vaping products that were using tobacco-based nicotine. And so then they had to work again to get the authority to regulate the synthetic nicotine products. And so that is a massive challenge that we face. As soon as we start making progress, these companies, they're just seeing a quick way to make money. And so they just switch their gears. We also have a logistical problem of figuring out who these people are. A product that no one here's mentioned yet was Hyde Vape, HYDE Vape. It was a huge seller about a year or so ago. And I mean, nobody knew who they were. And it turned out it was like some 18-year-old guy, like selling them from like his parents' house. And he made millions of dollars doing this, but like nobody knew where he was. And so I think that that's kind of the biggest challenge that we face. We also have the problem of what to do with these products once they are confiscated. What the state of Tennessee does when they confiscate cigarettes is we literally have an incinerator and they throw them in this incinerator and they, burn them up when they confiscate illegal cigarettes that aren't for sale in Tennessee or something like that. But these are hazardous products. They contain like lithium ion batteries, and then the vape juice themselves are also hazardous products. So it becomes a logistical nightmare of, well, what do we do with these products? I know that's an issue that we've had questions from schools. They're like, okay, well, I've confiscated, like all these vapes. Now, what do I do with them? We just have them sitting in a box here and you can't just throw them away. And so I think trying to figure out those solutions will take a lot of creativity and a lot of ingenuity, but we're all working on it.
Those are great points. Thank you for bringing them up. And the just initially when you just said it's going to take a lot of creativity, I thought maybe some schools could turn these vapes into art projects or sculptures. I don't know, man. So what crazy things can we do with it to get it? Anyway, I digress. Stephanie, I'll kick it to you to think about through the lens of community building in that way.
So I would echo everything Lori said about some of the challenges and barriers related to vapes. I would also add, what I'm sitting here thinking about is how easy it is to conceal use. And I might be stepping on Crystal's toes a little bit, because when it comes to schools, I think that's probably what Crystal is going to talk about. So I'm going to skip over that to say that I think some of our other barriers are, we are seeing vape products being marketed in the exact same way as big tobacco marketed combustible tobacco products, and have subsequently paid major settlements, as Lori has already mentioned, that we're seeing with vapes. And so we have this misperception that vapes are relatively harmless, that vapes are a cessation device. In fact, we know that research indicates that both are untrue. And so we have a lot of misperceptions to clear up in the community. We need to get good information out to people about the vape devices, and especially youth. And so we've got to figure out a way to really change the norms and change the culture as it relates to vape devices, especially in schools, and figuring out a way. And we potentially could market this through policy, but we've got to figure out a way to make these products less able to be concealed, especially from a school standpoint. If we really don't want youth to use vape products, then why are we selling sweatshirts that have easy to conceal ways to use a vape? Why are we allowing watches to be made that have vapes concealed on the inside? And so just as the FDA disallowed products, flavored tobacco products, why are we not moving forward in a way to ban these products that are allowing people to conceal their use? And so this two-pronged approach of the barriers of misperceptions related to the products and the ease of concealment, I think are our biggest challenges. Certainly both are possible to overcome.
More great points and great challenges ahead. I'll kick it to you, Mrs. Trell.
So some of the other barriers is one of the things that we're finding, of course, and I think that Stephanie and Lori may have already said it, is some of the lack of education around the dangers of vaping for students and parents. And so what we're finding from the school side is that these are not nicotine vapes that our students have. These vapes are now containing marijuana and other substances. And so it's the physical impact, them understanding the physical impact. I think there's also that piece of that social acceptance stigma that contributes, of course, to the uptick. And of course, not to mention how it impacts the development of the student, of course, the brain when starting at a certain age. The other piece that is a barrier is the accessibility to the vaping items and where they can be purchased. Selling illegal to students, it has been a huge barrier. And the way, again, this is a conversation that always come up, especially at our first time drug offenders class, where we're talking to parents, because we do have a session where the parents get to see where the kids can conceal the vapes, from the caps to the highlighter. There are just various ways and creative ways that the students have been able to conceal the use of vapes. And so one of the things that a parent did point out is that, you know, again, at some places that the kids are able to go into a convenience store or gas station and actually purchase a vape. And what we're finding, or what these other parents are also finding, is that these vapes are containing not only, it's not containing nicotine, it's containing marijuana and other types of drugs. And so those would kind of be some of the barriers that kind of impact, or challenges that impacts us lowering that youth vape rate.
All right. Well, okay. I'm always been a very solution oriented person, and we try to come up with solutions in our coalition that we can tackle, and things that are, you know, there are big challenges here that are going to take a decade, but there are smaller challenges that we can tackle in the next year. And so I'm curious, I'd like, if you could each list one challenge that you think we could tackle in this next year, and what that would be for this group of, like, okay, this is feeling like an overwhelming thing right now, but what can I do to like take my local prevention coalition, or take my group of parents at school, or work with TN Strong, or work with our coalition in some way to tackle one thing? What would that be? Lori, we'll go back to you.
I think one thing that we can do to make a difference right now is working towards partnerships with either federal organizations or with local organizations or state organizations, depending on what mindset you're coming from. Partnering with people at a different level, because that will give you access to resources you don't have. Just a couple weeks ago, we had the big conference of state tobacco attorneys. And so the director of the Center for Tobacco Products at the FDA, Brian King, was there. And so he indicated wanting state and local help for all of these issues, because, you know, I mean, in Tennessee alone, you know, there's probably, I think the number is around, like, I forget what the actual number is. I was just told this number not that long ago, but there's I think we have about 5,000 or 6,000 retail stores that sell these types of products. And so the FDA, the federal government, cannot inspect all of those. Even the state struggles to inspect all of those. But if everybody works together, I think, you know, we can get a lot done. So that's kind of the focus that my office is sort of gearing towards right now, is working with the federal government and trying to get extra resources from them so that we can have the bandwidth to take on this project.
Yeah, amen to that. And I think that's one of the big reasons we are hosting this webinar, is to hopefully bring people together from different parts of our community, our state, that are working on this and don't know about the other work that people are doing. Because if we can join forces and help each other out and that stuff, I think that's huge. And consider our coalition a resource there. If you're working on something cool and you want help with it, share it with us, and we'll try to connect you with other folks doing that in that way. And also, that data that you just mentioned about the stores, interestingly, was just shared with me as well. And the number, I believe, that was staggering was 9,334 retailers of tobacco and vapor products in the state of Tennessee, which interestingly is 3 times the number that the entire United Kingdom has. So that's data we should dig into and figure out too. How do we cross-reference that with vaping rates in communities? And is there a correlation there? And how close are they to schools? And anyway, Stephanie, let's see what your solution is.
Interesting commentary here, and certainly I could expand upon what you all have already said. I won't, but I echo those sentiments. I think that our partners across the state are doing a good job of recognizing the local conditions and the local behaviors they see as it relates to vaping in their communities. Obviously, vaping in Shelby County looks different as it does to Weakley County, and different from Cheatham County to Knox County and Washington County all the way across the east. And so I think our members from across the state are doing a good job having their finger on the pulse of what's happening in their community. And I think that's where our real win is going to be found, is where our local communities are able to recognize the behaviors that they see in their community. And then we come up with a comprehensive strategic plan on how we're going to address those behaviors. And when we talk about that comprehensive strategic plan, We can provide information all day, and providing information is a really important foundation for where we start. But providing information isn't going to lead to behavior change. So we have to build in skills. We've got to be able to provide support and cessation resources, but we've also got to think about reducing access to vape products, and as you all have mentioned, and increasing access to treatment and cessation resources. We've got to think about consequences. And when I say consequences, I'm talking globally. I'm talking about they don't have to be punitive. They can be restorative, but we need some restorative practices built into our communities that help our youth make better decisions and move toward a healthier lifestyle. Changing policy, modifying the physical design of the environment, like you all mentioned, making sure that students can't walk from their school campus across the street and purchase vape products and walk back to school. Modifying policy, I think, is really going to be where we get the biggest return on our investment in our work. And I think we have the people mobilized in our state to be able to do that. But making sure that everybody's working with this comprehensive approach to strategic planning in their community is where we're going to get the big wins.
Love that. Love that. All right, Mrs. Terrell, what would be your one solution you would tackle in the next year?
And so sorry about that, you all. My light keeps going out. One of the things is just with us for specifically is just continue with that education piece, because that's one of the things that is a little bit easier for us to lift. Is the piece, the education piece. And one of the things, especially as we continue to do these student voice sessions, is moving into January with a vaping campaign. The other piece is one of the things that we've talked to schools about specifically is when you all have your parent nights, making sure that you're integrating those not parent nights or school nights, making sure that there's a component where you have the opportunity to provide a parent session for parents, and so forth. The other piece is continuing with linking our schools with the programs or organizations that can provide them with those presentations, especially if that's not their wheelhouse. But there are programs and organizations out there that could provide them with the training and even presentations for their students. So continue to just do that work and so forth. So.
Fantastic. Yeah, I feel like that's something I've heard over and over again recently too, is just that we all need to up the parental education aspect of this, that parents are getting overwhelmed by the amount of new products that are coming out and not being able to keep up with them. And so I think that's a challenge that we could and should be able to tackle through some, creative media campaigns and education campaigns that way. I feel like what to do with these excess products, that could be an interesting challenge that maybe the TN Strong ambassadors or local coalitions could come up with a challenge to figure out solutions there. And then as someone who works with folks all across the board here, an interesting challenge that I feel like we face I don't know if it's a simple one, but it's just funding and figuring out how, I know we currently only offer state-funded youth cessation programs in 20 of 95 counties in Tennessee. So that seems like if we can roll that out statewide, that should be a base level of, we have that resource for kids to help get them off that as well. Those are just my 2 cents on there too. I think we're just about wrapped. I want to keep about 5 minutes here for Q&A. If anybody has any questions they want to drop in the chat right now. We had a couple in there as well. Scrolling through here. One interesting one that I feel like I will toss out here to the group. I think this is actually more of a maybe for Mrs. Lambert. I think I might toss this to you. Is there any penalty for retailers that sell online to kids directly, and how are we kind of preventing them from getting it that way?
I believe right now there's not anything explicitly there because it's hard to regulate that. And so that obviously is a big piece that we're working towards and trying to stop that at a federal level. Something that I think would be a helpful thing. So we currently have, I don't know how, this is a group of people who do tobacco related stuff. So everyone might know this, but we have a tobacco directory, meaning that every company that makes cigarettes and wants to sell them in Tennessee has to be approved every single year to sell the cigarettes in Tennessee. And so I know some states have been pushing for an e-cigarette directory. And so I know there's some legislation out there on that. And so I think that might be one way to combat this, to say like, okay, well, we're only going to let approved sellers sell in Tennessee. So that would mean even with like a delivery sale online. I think that is one method we have out there, but that would be more of a long-term solution because that would take a little while to get in place.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great info to know. And yeah, I think that registry would be an interesting challenge to tackle, but I feel like that's a great way to know when it's just mystery coming, whether something's being delivered from China or not too. All right, well, I think, let's see, is there anything else here? Yeah, I guess the one question here that came up too was, are there ways that we can be, so the youth data right now is still limited. We're catching up on it, right? We're getting better. We're tracking it now, and in future years we'll have more. But in the meantime, what can local schools or local communities do to maybe help collect their own data that can be utilized, and what things can we be tracking that could be helpful in quantifying this problem? So Ms. Terrell and Ms. Strutner, if you two would maybe tackle those, that would be fantastic. We'll start with you, Stephanie.
I think this is a great question, and we are positioned in many communities to have great data related to prevalence of use, perception of harm, perception of parent disapproval. These measures are incredibly important in helping us not only identify problems that exist, but also to be able to measure success in changing behaviors. Not every community in the state is participating in the survey. And so there are a number of ways we can engage. We have the Tennessee Together student survey that's operated by the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. That's one option. But we can even go above and beyond that, because anytime we are engaging in collecting data from students, we have the ability to run crosstabs on social drivers of health. And if we look back historically at how tobacco products and now nicotine products have been marketed to people, we see products marketed in communities that have disproportionately high health disparities. And so when we're collecting our data, we can tie health disparities to behaviors, I believe we'll be able to target our interventions and more appropriately for the populations that need them the most. And so I would encourage anybody who's connected to a school system who has the ability to collect data from students to do so in a very responsible manner, but to do so in a way that gives you the opportunity to match and be able to run those crosstabs so that we can see who are the students who are vaping. Why are those students vaping? How are they accessing those products? Because if we can cut off the access point, then they can't vape. If we cut off the reason or help to support the reason that they're vaping, then they won't want to vape. And so I think we come from be very strategic in our data collection initiatives. It gives us a real ability to initiate behavior change.
Fantastic.
Go ahead, Jamie. Sorry.
Nope, sorry, I was just going to kick it to you.
Oh, okay. One of the things that we do, and of course, as the district, we are able to with our student voice sessions, we are capturing some of that qualitatively. But however, quantitatively, we are able to catch or get some of that data through infraction. So like if there is a student that has been caught with a nicotine vape, of course the school will put that in as a discipline infraction. And so we are able to capture that data and know what schools had an increase in infractions related to vapes. However, we also collect data as it relates to our with drugs. And so with drugs, we are able to see what kids have been assigned the first time drug offenders program. So we are able to catch a lot of that data quantitatively. And so what we have seen is that a lot of our schools, especially those schools who have seen an increase in marijuana vapes or just vapes in general, those are some of the schools that also have asked specifically for resources and for someone to come into their building and provide those resources to those students. The other piece that we have with our first time drug offenders class is that we look at our list and we say, okay, this is a school that looks like also that they're experiencing an increase in students vaping. And so we will connect them. We would have someone to follow up with those students after the class, but we also connect that school too with other organizations that can provide support for those students after they have completed the class and so forth.
Fantastic. Yes, those are some great ideas, and I would encourage if there are other folks from schools on here today too, that collecting the data on the infractions too is a really tangible way we can measure growth. I feel like I saw a news piece recently that showed Metro Nashville Public Schools had an increase year over year of like 150% in the collections of that, that's very unsettling. And I think that's a tangible way for folks to really grasp the problem as we collect the other parts of the data too. All right, Tracy, if you wouldn't mind sharing just the final contact slide here, just so folks know, we're going to wrap up here. Our next webinar is going to be on February 22nd, which is actually during Quit Week. And the theme of it is advertising addiction. It's the double-edged sword of media, how it's hurting us and the money that big tobacco is spending on that, but how we can also utilize it to help spread the word and educate folks on these issues. If you want to get in touch with us on the next slide here, info@smokefreetennessee.com. Any questions you have for us, hit us up. If you want to be in touch with somebody, if you want to connect to a group working on something, feel free to reach out to us and we will make those connections for you. If you want to get in touch with TN Strong, the email's there as well as the Tennessee Tobacco Quit department as well. So please feel free to be in touch. Bringing everybody together is the first step in addressing these problems so that we can work together on this, because that's how we're going to get it done. It's a massive undertaking ahead of us, but we can do it together with solutions this way. We will send out this recording for you to have as a resource. We will send out this presentation, and we'll probably include just some links to resources as well for folks. So thank you so much for taking the time during your lunch today. Thank you so much to our panelists for being involved and lending their time and expertise here. You guys were all amazing, and we are lucky to have you. And thanks to our coalition secretary Tracy here running the slideshow for us. We appreciate you. We'll see you at the next webinar. Keep up the amazing work, everybody, and have a great weekend. Cheers.